I still remember the smell of that conference room. Burned coffee, old carpet, cheap air freshener doing absolutely nothing against the anxiety sweating out of 10 overworked people in suits. My name is Harper Lane, and that was the morning my life and my idea were quietly stolen in front of me. I sat near the end of the long glass table, notebook open, fingers pressed so tight around my pen that the knuckles went white. The screen at the front of the room glowed with the title of the presentation I had spent 3 months building, Project Aurora, Reclaiming Lost Customers. Except under the title, in bold letters, it didn't say my name. It said, presented by Nathan Cole, Senior Strategy Director. Nathan stood at the front, tall and polished, sleeves rolled up, just enough to look busy, but not actually sweaty. His smile was calm, practiced, the kind of smile that made people trust him. He hadn't written a single line of that deck. He tapped the clicker, cleared his throat, and said, "Thanks, everyone, for making time today. I know we're all stretched thin, but I've been developing an initiative I believe can turn our churn problem around." My stomach twisted. Developing, not my team, not Harper, just him. He was wearing the same fake humble tone he'd used the week before when he'd asked me to run my ideas by him so he could help package them for leadership. I watched as slide after slide appeared. My structure, my research, my charts, my stupid color palette I had stayed up until 2 a.m. fixing because the first version looked too aggressive. All of it, mine, now dressed in his voice. I glanced toward the VP of Operations, Mariah Jennings, the one whose attention I'd been trying to get for over a year. Her eyes were glued to the screen, focused, impressed. She'd never even been in the same room as me before this. But I was there now, just a ghost at the end of the table. "We've identified 3 key customer segments we're losing in the first 90 days, Nathan said, pointing to the chart I'd built from hundreds of painful survey responses. "By tailoring onboarding journeys, we can increase retention by at least 12% in under 6 months." I almost choked. He had fought me on that 12%. Told me it was too ambitious, that I should lower it to 8, so it looks more realistic. Now it was his bold prediction. Mariah said, leaning forward. "And how confident are you in these projections?" "Very confident," I wanted to say. Nathan didn't miss a beat. "I've personally reviewed the data," he replied smoothly. "My team and I have tested the model. We're confident we can deliver." My team. I looked down at my notebook so they wouldn't see my face. I felt the anger rising, burning behind my eyes, behind my ribs. "No," I told myself, "don't cry. Not here. Not for them." Instead, I wrote something on the page in small, neat letters. "I see you." Because that was the moment I decided this wasn't going to be another injustice I swallowed and moved on from. This wasn't college group projects or small-time credit stealing. This was my career, and he was not walking away clean. The meeting ended with polite applause. A few jokes, plans to circle back on the budget. Mariah shook Nathan's hand. "This is strong," she said. "Send me the full deck. I want to show it to the CEO next week. This could be big." My pulse pounded in my ears. This could have been my moment. Instead, I was a background noise. People shuffled their things, chairs scraped back. No one looked at me. They walked around me like a chair someone forgot to push in. Nathan finally turned toward me. Just for a second. No one else was looking. He didn't say thank you. Didn't say sorry. Instead, he gave me this tiny dismissive nod, like the kind you give a barista who got your order right. And then he left. I sat there a moment longer, fingers still wrapped around the pen, knuckles still white. I didn't know it yet, but that was the last time I let him walk away with anything of mine without paying for it. When I finally stood, the room was empty. The projector cooled with a soft ticking sound. I walked up to the screen, staring at the final slide. Next steps. Yeah, I had a few of those. Outside, the floor was buzzing with the usual noise. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking, fake laughter bouncing down the hallway. The open office layout looked modern, but it always felt like a stage. Everyone pretending. Everyone performing. Back at my desk, a sad little corner near the printer, my inbox was already filling with internal praise threads. Great work, Nathan. Brilliant as always. Loved the data storytelling. Inspired. My name was nowhere. I clicked open the shared drive. The deck was there under Nathan's folder, renamed, rearranged just enough so that if anyone checked the version history, they wouldn't immediately see my fingerprints. But I had copies. I had everything. Because if there's one thing you learn as a woman in corporate, especially one buried in middle management, it's this. Document. Everything. I had the original file with my name on it. I had the emails where he asked me to just send the draft so I can give feedback. I had Slack messages from him asking for a bit of data to back up this hunch I've been having, followed by screenshots of my analysis. At first, those records just made me feel pathetic. Like some paranoid employee building a folder of just in case receipts that would never matter. But by the end of that day, they felt like something else. Matches. I just needed the right moment to strike them. Around 4 o'clock, my best friend in the office, Tasha, rolled her chair over to my desk, clutching a mug of tea. She took one look at my face and didn't bother with small talk. He did it, didn't he? I kept my voice steady. He presented Aurora. And took all the credit. Tasha leaned back, lips twisting in disgust. Of course he did. That man would put his name on oxygen if he could. Normally, we'd laugh at that. I didn't. He's sending it to Mariah, I said softly. She wants to show it to the CEO. Tasha's eyes widened. The CEO? Harper? This could fast-track him for promotion. I stared at my monitor, at the endless rows of numbers that suddenly meant nothing. I know. You need to talk to HR, she said. Or at least to someone. This isn't right. I let out a short, humorless laugh. HR? You mean the department that reports to the same executive who protects Nathan because he drives results? She winced. I shook my head. They'll log a complaint. They'll ask for examples. Then they'll talk to him. He'll say it was a miscommunication and that I was part of the process. And I'll get labeled difficult. We both knew I wasn't wrong. So, what are you going to do? She asked quietly. I thought about that question long after the office emptied out. By 7, the floor was almost silent. Just the hum of the AC and the occasional ding of an elevator. I stayed. My screen glowed in the dim light as I opened one file after another. I reviewed email chains, Slack threads, past projects where the same thing had happened on a smaller scale. Little cuts, nothing big enough to prove intent. Just enough to bleed you over time. But patterns tell stories, and I was very, very good at analyzing patterns. I started building a new document, not a pitch deck, a timeline, dates, times, attachments, screenshots, project names, every instance where an idea of mine or someone else's lower on the ladder had somehow resurfaced later with Nathan's name on it. At first, I was doing it for me, for my sanity. But halfway through, something shifted. I wasn't just collecting proof anymore. I was designing something. A narrative, a mirror, something I could hold up in front of the right people and say, look, this is who he is. It still felt weak, though, passive, like I was asking for justice instead of taking it. I didn't want him lightly scolded. I didn't want a half-hearted apology. I wanted him to lose what he had stolen from me. His reputation, his upward trajectory, his safety. My phone buzzed with a text from Tasha. "You still there?" "Yeah," I typed back. "Just finishing something." 3 dots. Then, "You okay?" I stared at the question. I thought about saying I was fine, but I wasn't. "No," I wrote, "but I will be." She didn't respond right away. That was okay. I didn't need comfort anymore. I needed a plan. Later that week, the company announced the upcoming quarterly all-hands meeting. Full staff, executives, leadership from every department, the CEO himself, selected. Strategic initiatives will be spotlighted, the email read, including a new customer retention strategy led by our very own Nathan Cole. I sat there, rereading that line. Spotlighted. Led. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. An idea formed. Dangerous. Sharp. I opened the shared calendar, checked the date of the all hands. Then I opened the internal communications org chart, the one that listed who controlled the all hands slide deck. It wasn't Nathan. It wasn't HR. It was the director of internal comms, a woman named Lila, who cared more about clean branding and storytelling than politics. If I could get something into her hands, something she couldn't ignore. I closed my eyes for a moment, feeling my heart hammer against my ribs. This was reckless, risky. If it went wrong, I could be labeled a troublemaker, or worse. They could box me out, make my life miserable, quietly push me out the door. But if it went right, if the CEO saw what I wanted him to see, in front of everyone, I opened a new document. Title: Aurora, Original Concept Development Notes. Then I started writing. Not like a report, not like a complaint, like a story. Dates, references, early mock-ups, screenshots of my original file with time-stamped creation dates. Notes where I'd written, Nathan asked to review this before sending to leadership. Side-by-side comparisons of my draft and his final deck. I made it clean, professional, undeniable. I wasn't done that night, or the night after, but that was okay. Revenge is in a single moment. It's a slow build, a careful setup. And as I sat there in the blue glow of my monitor, the office floor dark and quiet around me, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. Nathan thought he'd taken my work and walked away. He had no idea he'd just handed me the perfect weapon, and I was done playing nice. The office looked different the next morning, not visually. The same buzzing fluorescent lights, the same motivational posters pretending to care about our potential, the same coffee machine that hissed like it resented us. But something in the air felt sharper, tighter, like the building itself was holding its breath. Or maybe that was just me. I walked in early, long before the floor filled with chatter. My steps echoed on the polished concrete as I headed toward my desk. Coffee in hand, the memory of last night's work still burning in the back of my mind. My folder, my timeline, my proof. Every word of it was still sitting on my laptop like a live wire. I couldn't help the tiny flicker of fear that ran through me. Revenge sounds empowering in your head, but the execution isn't clean. It shakes you. It forces you to imagine the fallout before anything even happens. But alongside the fear was something else, something unfamiliar. Control. I opened my laptop and the screen lit up with the document I'd fallen asleep staring at. I read the first lines again, my own words looking strangely powerful in the quiet morning. Project Aurora, original work documentation, authored by Harper Lane. Seeing my name there steadied me. I wasn't stealing anything. I wasn't manipulating anything. I was reclaiming what was mine. I clicked open another tab. The All Hands Calendar event. 1 week. 1 week until every leader, every executive, and every person who had ever walked past me like I was furniture would be gathered in one virtual room, eyes on the same screen. Nathan would be presenting my work to the entire company, unless I made sure the truth got there first. At 8:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Tasha, you alive?" I smirked. "Barely." A few seconds later, she showed up at my desk in person, hair in a loose bun, holding 2 coffees like she expected me to need reinforcement. She dropped one beside me. "You stayed late again." "Couldn't sleep." She hesitated. "You're not doing something reckless, right?" I shrugged. "Depends on your definition of reckless." "Harper?" I sighed, leaning back in my chair. "I'm documenting everything. I'm not letting him take this without a fight." Tasha wasn't the dramatic type, but the way her eyes widened made it clear she understood just how dangerous that sentence was. "You know, people like him don't go down quietly," she said. "If he realizes what you're doing, he won't," I cut in. "Nathan doesn't pay attention to anything he doesn't consider a threat." Tasha shook her head slowly, concern written across her face. "I'm just saying, be smart, not scared. Smart." "I am being smart," I said, for the first time. She didn't argue, but she didn't look convinced either. By noon, the office was in full swing. Every time I glanced up from my screen, I saw people laughing, typing, gossiping. They were so wrapped up in their own little universes that it made me wonder how many other stolen ideas lived quietly on this floor. How many invisible workers built the foundations, only for someone else to stand at the top and wave a flag. By mid-afternoon, I was ready for step 2. I opened a blank email to Lila, the Director of Internal Communications, the gatekeeper of the all-hands slides. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was it. The first real move. I typed, "Hi Lila, I noticed that Nathan Cole is scheduled to present the new retention strategy at the All Hands next week. I've been working extensively on the foundational research behind the project and wanted to ensure background materials are accurate and properly represented in the final slides. Would you have time this week for me to share some supporting documentation?" I kept it clean. Professional, not emotional. If she opened the door, I'd step through. If she didn't, I had other paths. I hit send. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my palms. 10 minutes passed. 20. Finally, a reply popped up. "Hi, Harper. Absolutely. I'd appreciate any context you can provide. I'm finalizing the deck on Friday. Can you send me what you have by then?" I exhaled. This was the opening I needed. Now I just had to get the story right. That night, I stayed late again. This time, not to gather evidence, but to craft the narrative. I knew exactly how people like Lila thought. Storytellers cared about beginnings, middles, and ends. They cared about threats, consistency, impact. So I wrote it like a case study. Clear, factual, impossible to ignore. Every email chain had context. Every screenshot had dates. Every claim had receipts. By the time the clock on my screen read 10:47 p.m., I had a document that didn't just show Nathan had stolen my work. It showed he had been doing it for years, and that leadership had unknowingly rewarded him for it. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my eyes, exhaustion heavy in my bones. But under the tiredness was adrenaline, the good kind, the kind that says, "You're close." I saved the file, named it Aurora, Original Development HL PDF, and locked my laptop. As I walked out of the building, the fluorescent lights clicked off behind me one by one, plunging the hallway into darkness. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small in that darkness. I felt dangerous. The next morning, I got a surprise. Nathan was at my desk, just standing there, casual, hands in pockets, like we were old friends. I stopped a few feet away. He smiled. "Morning, Harper." My blood ran cold. Morning. He nodded at my monitor. You've been working late, I've noticed. A prickle crawled up the back of my neck. So? I asked. So? He said. We're on the same team. You don't have to stress yourself out on my account. My account? The arrogance in those two words nearly made me laugh. Instead, I asked, Did you need something? Well, he said, lowering his voice slightly. I heard you've been talking to Lila. My stomach dropped, but I didn't show it. I kept my expression neutral. I work with data. She works with internal messaging. It's normal. Sure, he said slowly. Normal. He studied my face for a long moment. I realized then that he wasn't nervous. He was suspicious. That meant he felt something, a shift, however small. Good. He leaned closer, his voice dropping even further. Just remember, he said, in a place like this, people who try to go around the chain of command don't last very long. The threat wasn't even disguised. I met his eyes, steady, cold. Then it's a good thing I'm not going around anyone, I said. I'm just doing my job. For the first time since I'd known him, Nathan didn't have a ready-made smile. He straightened up. Good. Keep it that way. And he walked off. I didn't breathe until he turned the corner. The moment he was gone, I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Tasha. He knows something. She replied instantly. What do you want to do? I looked at the email from Lila, at the attached calendar invite, at the folder sitting on my desktop like a lit fuse. Stick to the plan, I wrote back. If Nathan was already uneasy, that meant I was closer to the truth than I'd realized. Friday came faster than I expected. I waited until the entire office was wrapped up in meetings and noise, and then slipped into an empty conference room to send the file to Lila. I sat there for a full minute before hitting send, breathing slow, hands steady, and then I did it. The email flew out of my drafts with a soft whoosh. A minute passed. 3, 5, nothing. Then finally, a reply. Harper, thank you for this. I need time to review everything. Please don't discuss this with anyone yet. L short, professional, serious, the kind of message people send when they're processing something heavy. That night, I barely slept. On Monday morning, Lila called me into a small glass-walled meeting room. She was already seated, my document printed and highlighted on the table beside her. The sight of those fluorescent yellow lines nearly made my knees buckle. She didn't waste any time. Harper, she said, did you create this project? Yes. Did Nathan contribute to any of these foundational materials? No. She studied me, quiet, observant. Why didn't you bring this up earlier? Because no one would have listened. Because I was tired. Because I thought doing good work would be enough. But all I said was, I didn't want to cause trouble. I just want credit for my work. She nodded slowly, as if confirming something she already suspected. I don't know yet what the final outcome will be, she said, but I do know this. The all hands is 3 days away, and the truth needs to be represented accurately. My breath caught. It was happening. She stood, gathering the papers. I'll take it from here. I watched her leave the room, each step feeling like a drumbeat. 3 days. 72 hours until Nathan stood in front of the entire company with a presentation he thought was his. 72 hours until the truth detonated. I walked back to my desk in a daze. Tasha rolled over immediately, eyes wide. Well? It's moving, I whispered. What does that mean? I took a long breath. It means he's not ready for what's coming. And as I sat there, staring at the calendar notification for the upcoming all-hands meeting, a strange calm washed over me. The kind of calm that comes right before a storm. And I knew, without a doubt, that part 3 of this story wasn't going to be revenge. it was going to be reckoning. I didn't hear anything for the rest of the day. Not from Lila, not from leadership, not from anyone who mattered. But I did hear from Nathan. He hovered around my desk twice, pretended to ask harmless questions once, spoke to 2 managers, near me in hushed tones, kept glancing over like a man trying to read a locked door. He felt something slipping, and he didn't know what. Good. By Tuesday morning, tension hummed through the office like static before a lightning strike. People walked faster, talked quieter. The upcoming all-hands was all anyone could discuss. Nathan's presenting a huge project. CEOs highlighting it personally. He might get promoted after this. Strategy director to VP, calling it now. It was like hearing a countdown someone else believed in, a countdown that was about to explode in their faces. At 11:43 a.m., I saw an email pop into my inbox. Meeting update, Aurora Deck, all hands sender, Lila recipients, CEO, executive team, internal comms, Nathan Cole. CC, me. My heart slammed into my ribs. I clicked it open with shaking hands. Hi all, attached. You'll find the updated Project Aurora materials for Thursday's all hands presentation. These updates reflect the original research contributions, authorship timeline, and foundational analysis completed during the development of the initiative. Please ensure proper attribution is maintained in the final deck. LO. Attached, Aurora or Original Development, HL PDF, my name, in an email, copied to the CEO. The room tilted for a second. My hands went cold. Nathan replied 6 minutes later. Lila, there seems to be a misunderstanding. These materials were part of my broader strategic direction for the initiative. Harper supported as a data analyst but did not create the concept. I felt fire rip through my body. Before I could even react, the CEO responded, Nathan, we'll review this together before the all hands. Attribution accuracy is critical. Michael Short, flat, controlled. The kind of message that meant someone at the top had just smelled smoke, and they were going to follow it to the fire. Nathan didn't reply after that. He didn't need to. His silence said everything. Wednesday morning, Nathan showed up at the office earlier than usual. He walked straight past the kitchen, past the cluster of interns, past the sales team joking loudly, and planted himself at my desk. No fake smile this time, no slick charm, just anger, quiet and dangerous. We need to talk, he said. I closed my laptop, keeping my face blank. About what? You know what? He leaned down, voice low, jaw tight. Why did you send that document? I didn't send it to the whole company, I said calmly. I sent it to the person who builds the all hands materials. That's her job. You blindsided me. No, I said. You blindsided yourself by taking something that wasn't yours. His nostrils flared. This is going to backfire, he hissed. You don't understand the politics here. You think you can go over me and come out clean? I didn't go over you, I said quietly. I went around the lie. He grabbed the back of the vacant chair at my desk, knuckles white. Fix it. No? You're making a mistake, he said. You're not the one they protect. I looked him dead in the eye. Then you should have protected yourself better. For the first time since I met him, Nathan looked genuinely rattled. He didn't speak again, just walked away, stiff and silent, heading straight for the elevators. Probably to find someone who could rescue him, someone who couldn't. Not this time. The night before the all hands, I barely slept. Every scenario ran through my mind like a film reel stuck on fast forward. What if they dismissed it? What if they downplayed it? What if Nathan found a way to twist it? What if nothing happened? But beneath the fear, something steadier pulsed. Truth. You can hide it, delay it, bury it under titles and charm. But once you shine a light on it, there's no going back to darkness. At 8:58 a.m. Thursday morning, My hands trembled as I logged into the company-wide live stream. Faces filled the virtual grid. Hundreds, maybe more. The chat buzzed. The CEO appeared on screen. Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be reviewing key strategic initiatives, including an important customer retention project that many of you have heard about. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my ears. Nathan appeared in a small window beside him. His smile looked stretched, forced, flickering at the edges. Then the CEO clicked to the next slide. Project Aurora, Concept Origin and Development Timeline. Lead Analyst, Harper Lane. My breath caught. The chat froze. The room went dead silent. The slide contained my name, my dates, my work, my screenshots, my files. Everything Lila had taken, summarized, and placed right where every person at the company could see them. The CEO spoke. This timeline outlines the foundational research, analysis, and drafts that inform the initiative. It's important to acknowledge all contributors accurately. Nathan's face hardened on screen. A micro-expression he immediately tried to bury, but everyone saw it. Everyone. As a company, the CEO continued, we value transparency. Misattribution doesn't align with our culture or expectations. Someone in the chat typed, wait, wasn't this Nathan's project? Another, why is Harper's name all over the early drafts? Another, this looks bad. Nathan finally spoke. Michael, if I may. No, the CEO said, his voice tight. We'll discuss after the meeting. Nathan shut his mouth. A heat rushed through my chest. Something sharp and dizzying. Vindication. Real. Public. Irreversible. The CEO moved on, giving me credit for every piece of data, every insight, every part of the research phase. He didn't embellish, he didn't dramatize, he simply told the truth. By the time the meeting ended, my inbox was overflowing. I had no idea this was your work. Proud of you for speaking up. You deserve this credit. Is everything okay? But buried among them was an email from HR. Subject, immediate meeting request, Harper and Nathan. I stared at it for a long moment. Part of me expected fear to come rushing back, the familiar dread that HR meant fallout, anger, retaliation, warnings. But I didn't feel fear. I felt steady. When I walked into the conference room, HR was there. The CEO was there, and Nathan was there. He didn't look polished anymore. He looked like a man who finally realized the ground under his feet was not ground at all. The CEO folded his hands. Nathan, we reviewed the documentation. It's thorough. It's time-stamped. It's clear. Nathan opened his mouth. I guided the strategy. I shaped the messaging. Harper just... Stop, the CEO said. We're not debating authorship. We're addressing honesty. Nathan frozen. HR spoke next. Nathan, this isn't an isolated incident. We've received additional reports since yesterday. We're conducting a broader review. Additional reports, plural. He wasn't just a thief, he was a pattern. The CEO turned to me. Harper, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. You've been doing leadership-level work without recognition. That changes today. I swallowed, throat tight. Thank you. Then the CEO looked back at Nathan. You're suspended pending further investigation. Those words landed like a hammer. Nathan's face went red. You can't do this. You're overreacting. This is just office politics. She's lying to... Nathan, the CEO cut in. Please leave the room. For a full 3 seconds, Nathan didn't move. Then, slowly, like someone walking through thick mud, he stood. He looked at me. Really looked at me. His voice was barely audible. You think you won, but they'll forget you. I held his gaze. No, I said softly. They'll remember you. His eyes widened. Then he turned and walked out. The door clicked shut. It sounded like the end of a chapter. HR finished the meeting by outlining next steps, but I barely heard any of it. My pulse felt like thunder. My palms buzzed with leftover adrenaline. When I finally stepped out into the hallway, the air felt different, lighter, realer. Tasha was waiting near my desk, pretending to scroll her phone but failing miserably. The moment she saw my face, she shot to her feet. "Well?" "He's suspended," I whispered. Her jaw dropped. "Harper." I exhaled, a tremble, a release, a collapse, and a rebirth in one breath. She grabbed my hands. "You did it." "Yeah," I said. "I did." But inside, something deeper whispered, "No, he did it to himself." I just stopped hiding the truth. 3 weeks later, Nathan resigned before the investigation was finished. Officially, it was framed as a mutual decision. Unofficially, everyone knew. His reputation collapsed quietly, but completely. No new job title, no glowing recommendation, just exit paperwork and silence. Meanwhile, the CEO called me into his office and offered me a new role. Lead strategist. My own team, my own projects, my own spotlight. Not a revenge fantasy, not a dramatic collapse. Something better. My life. Finally mine again. I walked out of his office feeling taller, steadier, sharper than I had in years. Corporate revenge isn't loud. It isn't violent. It isn't chaotic. It's precise. It's strategic. It's the moment the truth walks into the room and demands to be seen. And if you're brave enough to stand beside it, it will set you free. I didn't destroy Nathan. I didn't have to. He walked himself off the cliff. All I did was stop cushioning his fall. And I never apologized for it. Not once. Because this wasn't just about credit. It wasn't just about a stolen idea. It was about every invisible worker who'd ever been told to know their place. It was about every whispered threat, every stolen moment, every unseen effort, every Harper who kept quiet because they thought speaking up would cost them everything. But sometimes, speaking up gives you back more than you lost. My name is Harper Lane, and this was the moment I stopped being a ghost in the room and became someone they could never ignore again.